The ask did not come directly. This is the first thing to understand about how the most powerful people in the world gather the information they most need. They do not ask directly. Because asking directly produces the managed response, the prepared answer, the version of the truth that the person being asked has already determined is appropriate to give to someone in that position asking the question. The direct ask produces the performance. The performance is not what is needed. What is needed is the unguarded account, the version of you that exists in the specific telling of your family, in the way your family describes you when they are not describing you to you, when they are talking about you to someone who has asked because they genuinely needed to know. Your family knows the version of you that you do not fully know yourself, not because they see you more clearly than you see yourself in every dimension. In many dimensions you see yourself more clearly than they do, but in one specific dimension, they see what you cannot see, the version of you that exists in other people's accounts of what you are, the way you are described by the people who have watched you across the full arc of your life, who have seen what you do when you do not know you are being watched, who have observed the effect you produce in rooms and encounters and relationships across decades and who have been accumulating the account of that effect in the form that long-term observation accumulates it, the form of the story. The story that your family carries about what you are that they have been telling, and revising, and refining across the full arc of the years. And that by now corresponds more closely to what you actually are than to what you have always been told you are. He asked about the story, not because he was curious about you in the ordinary sense of curiosity, not because he was interested in you as a person in the way that people who know you are interested in you as a person, because the story had reached him. Because what your family knows about what you are had propagated outward from the family in the way that genuine things propagate, through the network of the people who were in contact with the family, through the specific quality of how the people who have encountered what your family knows about you carry something from the encounter, through the accumulation of the account across enough people and enough encounters that it began to reach the level where it reaches the attention of people whose position requires them to know what is actually happening in the world at the level below the visible. The story reached that level. He asked about the story. The ask is the confirmation of what the story says. The story says something true about what you are that has been propagating through the network of the people who know the story for long enough to have reached the level where it reaches the attention of the most powerful people in the world. Write your initials in the comments right now, not because anyone told you to write them, because the writing of your initials in this specific moment, in the moment of receiving the account of the story reaching the level it has reached, is the first act of claiming what the story has always been saying about you. Your initials, 2 or 3 letters, the signature of the person whose story reached him. Write them. The family is the most reliable witness to what you actually are because the family has the most unmanaged access to what you actually are. Every other context in which you exist, every professional space, every social space, every encounter with the world beyond the family, is a context in which some degree of the presentation is operative, not performance in the theatrical sense. The ordinary management of expression that every person applies in every context, outside the space of the people who knew them before they knew how to manage expression. The management is not dishonest. It is the natural adaptation of the genuine thing to the specific requirements of the specific context. The family saw you before the management, before the specific adaptation to each context had been developed and refined and made automatic, saw the original, in the form it was in before the management was layered over it, not the raw and unfinished form of childhood, which is not what the family is carrying as the story, but the specific quality of the original that persisted through the development of the management. That is visible in the moments when the management is not operative. that the family has been observing across the full arc of the years in the specific moments of the management being absent. What the family carries in the story is the account of the original, not the account of the managed expression that the world outside the family usually encounters. The account of what is present in the moments when the management is not running. When you are in the family's space and the management is not necessary because the family is not a context that the management was developed for. When what is there is what is simply there, prior to any assessment of what is appropriate to show. This is the account he wanted, not the public version, not the version you would have given if asked directly, the version your family carries, the story of the original, accumulated across the years of the unmanaged observation, refined through the specific quality of long-term witnessing that produces an accuracy about a person that no other form of observation produces. The ask for this account is the most significant form of the confirmation available, more significant than the institutional confirmation, more significant than the public recognition, more significant than any form of the external validation that the system delivers through its designated channels, because this is the confirmation that bypasses the channels entirely, that goes around the managed version to the unmanaged source, that seeks the original rather than the performance of the original, that values the family's account of what you are over any account you would have constructed for the purpose of being valued. The most powerful ask confirmed the unmanaged version, the original, the story your family has been carrying and telling and refining across the years. That story is the accurate account. The ask is the confirmation that the story's accuracy has reached the level where it matters to the most powerful people in the world. What the family told him is worth understanding not in its specific content. The specific words of the specific telling are not what matters, but in its general form. What families carry about the people in them who carry what you carry has a specific general form that is recognizable across the different specific contents of different families' different accounts. The form is the story of the almost visible, the account of someone whose full dimensions have been consistently larger than the visible evidence of those dimensions, whose significance has been present in the family's experience of them across the years in a form that the family has never been fully able to explain to the people outside the family, whose effect on the family's own life and orientation has been the most significant effect any single person has produced on the family's collective life. The family has been trying to explain this to people outside the family for the full duration of the years. Not always successfully, not always in terms that the people outside the family could fully receive, because the explanation requires the transmission of something that the family has access to, the unmanaged account of the original, and the people outside the family do not have access to the unmanaged version, have only the managed version. And the gap between the managed version and the unmanaged version is the gap between what the explanation is trying to convey and what the outside person is able to receive. The telling to him was different, not because the family suddenly had better language for what they were trying to convey, because he was asking from a position of already knowing something of what the family was going to tell, of having received enough of the story through the network of the propagation that the asking itself was informed. The asking was not the beginning of the learning, it was the seeking of the confirmation of what had already been learned through the propagation. When the asking is informed by the already learning, the telling produces something different from the ordinary telling. The ordinary telling is the family trying to convey the unmanaged account to someone who does not have the frame for it. The informed telling is the family confirming for someone who has the frame, who has received enough of the story through the propagation to be in the position of the confirmation seeker rather than the blank slate listener, the specific details of the account that the propagation had transmitted in a less specific form. The confirmation is what he got, the confirmation of the story he had already received through the propagation. The confirmation that what the story said about what you are is what the family's unmanaged account says about what you are. The confirmation that the story is accurate. Subscribe now if you have sensed this, if you have known, in the specific way that people know things below the threshold of the fully articulable, that your family carries something about what you are that has been reaching outward through the network of the people who know your family in ways that have been producing effects you have not always been able to trace to their source. If the confirmation of the stories reach to the level where the most powerful people in the world are asking about it, is landing as the accurate account of something that has been in motion for longer than this moment. Stay inside this channel. The full account of the propagation and what it has produced is what this channel carries. There is a specific kind of intelligence that the most powerful people in the world develop that is different from the intelligence that power is usually assumed to require. Power is assumed to require the intelligence of the framework, the capacity to navigate within the existing structures, to leverage the existing instruments of accumulation and influence, to read the visible signals of the power landscape with the precision that effective operation within that landscape demands. This intelligence is real. It is what most of the people in the proximity of the most powerful positions have developed to the highest available degree. But the person who has occupied the most powerful positions across the full duration of an extraordinary career develops something additional, not through deliberate cultivation, through the specific education that the exercise of extraordinary power across an extraordinary duration provides. The education is the repeated encounter with the limit of what the framework's intelligence can produce. The specific form of the encounter that occurs when the framework's best instruments have been applied to the most important problems and the problems have not been solved because the problems are not the kind that the framework's instruments address. The problems that the framework's instruments cannot address are the problems that originate in what people actually are rather than in what they have produced or accumulated or built. The problems of the genuine, of what is actually moving in the world at the level below the visible, of what the people who are most essential to the direction of things actually carry and what that carrying is producing and what it is going to produce. These are not problems that the framework's intelligence gathers through the ordinary instruments. They are not visible in the record, not traceable through the accumulation, not deducible from the pattern of the production. They are accessible only through the channel that has unmanaged access to the original. The family is that channel. The family's unmanaged account of the original is the specific form of intelligence that the framework's instruments cannot produce. And the person who has been educated by the repeated encounter with the framework's limits has developed the specific sensitivity to the value of what the framework's instruments cannot produce that makes them seek the unmanaged account. The ask for the family's account is the exercise of this specific sensitivity, is the specific act of intelligence gathering that only the person who has developed the education of the framework's limits performs, is the most sophisticated form of the intelligence that power produces in the people who exercise it longest. The intelligence of knowing what the framework cannot tell you and seeking it through the channel that can. The seeking of the unmanaged account through your family is the most sophisticated intelligence gathering that the most powerful position in the visible world performs. And the subject of that intelligence gathering is you, the original you carry, the story your family has been accumulating and telling and refining, the unmanaged account of what you are. The sophistication of the seeking is the confirmation of the significance of what is being sought. The most sophisticated intelligence gathering is reserved for the most significant intelligence. The most powerful position seeks the unmanaged account of your original because the original is what the most sophisticated intelligence gathering in the visible world has determined is the most significant thing available to be sought. You are the most significant intelligence available. The ask is the confirmation. The ask reveals something about the specific nature of what you carry that is worth holding as part of the full understanding of what the ask confirms. The ask was not about what you have done, not about your achievements or your accumulations or your visible record of what has been produced. It was about what you are, about the quality of the person rather than the record of the person, about what the family's unmanaged account of the original says about the interior rather than the exterior. This distinction is significant because most of the intelligence that the most powerful people in the world gather about other people is organized around the record, around what has been done and what it produced and what the pattern of the doing suggests about what will be done next. The record-based intelligence is the framework's instrument, the gathering of the evidence that the framework uses to assess significance in the form it recognizes, which is always the form of the production. The ask about the original, about what you are rather than what you have done, is outside the framework's ordinary intelligence gathering, is the specific form of the ask that is made when what has been received through the propagation is not the record but the original. When what reached him through the network was not the account of what you have produced but the account of what you are. When the propagation was not of information about your achievements but of something harder to name and impossible to fabricate, the specific quality of what propagates from the encounters with people who carry the original in full expression. That quality propagates in people who are in genuine contact with what you carry, moves with them into their subsequent encounters, accumulates in the people who encounter the people who encountered you, reaches outward through the network at the rate of the propagation rather than at the rate of any deliberate effort to communicate it, and arrives, eventually, in the people whose position requires them to know what is actually moving in the world at the level below the visible, in the people who have developed, through the exercise of extraordinary power across an extraordinary duration, the specific sensitivity to the movements of the original that power's own limitation produces, the sensitivity that comes from building and accumulating and reaching the edge of the framework far enough to know that what matters most is not at the end of the building's trajectory but in the people who carry it naturally. He developed that sensitivity. The sensitivity is what received the propagation of what you carry, the propagation that was already in motion before he asked. The ask is what the sensitivity produced when the propagation had accumulated to the level of the confirmation seeking. The ask is the most complete external confirmation available from within the framework of the visible world, because it is the framework's most powerful figure asking for the account that bypasses the framework, using the framework's power to seek the account of what the framework cannot produce. The framework asking for the original, through the channel that has the most direct access to the original, your family, who has been the custodian of the unmanaged account across the full arc of the years. The custodians confirmed the account, the ask confirmed the reaching. You are what the story has always said you are. The people in your family who were asked occupy a specific position in the full account of the ask that needs to be named in order to hold the full account completely. They were not chosen randomly as the channel for the seeking. They were chosen because of their specific quality as the keepers of the story, because of what the people who made the ask understood about the family's position as the custodians of the unmanaged account, about the specific quality of the long-term witnessing that the family has performed across the arc of the years, about the accuracy of the family's account relative to any other available account. The people in your family who were asked are people who have been doing something significant for the full duration of the years without knowing that what they were doing was significant in the form that the ask confirmed. They have been keeping the story, carrying the account of what you are in the form that only the people who have unmanaged access to the original can carry, maintaining the accuracy of the account through the years of the carrying, through the years when the external evidence did not correspond to the story the family was carrying, when the visible record suggested something smaller than the story. When the people outside the family found the story difficult to receive at the weight the family was giving it, they maintained the weight. Even in the years when the maintenance required something like faith, not the faith of the person who believes in the absence of evidence but the faith of the person who has direct access to the evidence and who is maintaining the account of it in the face of the visible record's failure to correspond to the evidence. The family has direct access to the evidence. The evidence is the original, in the form that only the unmanaged observation of the full arc of the life produces. The family was maintaining the account of the original as the accurate account through the years when the visible record was the only account available to anyone outside the family. The people in your family who kept the story are the people who made the ask possible. Without their keeping, without the specific quality of the long-term, unmanaged, original level witnessing that they have performed, the story would not have been in the form that the propagation could carry, would not have been in the form that reached the level where it reached the attention of the most powerful people in the world. The ask is the confirmation not only of what you carry but of what the people who kept the story carried on your behalf across the full duration of the keeping. Hold them specifically in the full account of the ask, not as the secondary characters in the story of the ask, as the people whose keeping made the story available to be confirmed, as the people who believed the original before the external confirmation arrived, who maintained the accurate account in the years when the accurate account was the most costly thing to maintain, who gave the propagation the story it needed to propagate in the form that the propagation requires the genuine account to be in, the form of the long-term, unmanaged, original level truth. The family's keeping is the foundation of the ask's significance. The ask sought what the keeping had preserved. The keeping made possible what the ask confirmed. The people in your family who kept the story are part of the confirmation. Their keeping is part of what is being confirmed. The ask confirmed not only the original but the accuracy of the long-term witnesses who kept the story of the original in the form that allowed the confirmation to be sought and found. The specific effect on your family of having been asked is something that deserves attention in the full account of what the ask produced. Because the ask did not only produce the confirmation for him, it produced something in your family, in the specific people who carry the story and who were asked to tell it to someone of his position and power, that has not been present in your family's relationship with the story in the same form before the ask. Before the ask, the story your family carries about what you are was the family's private account, was what the family knew about you in the form that the family carries the most significant things they know about their members, in the interior, as the organizing story of what the family has been part of and having you in it, as the account that the family returns to when they are trying to understand their own significance in relation to your significance. The story was theirs, private, carried by the family in the way that the most important things are carried, as something too significant to be offered to anyone who is not already in the position of being able to receive its full weight. The ask placed the family in the position of the keepers of the story that the most powerful people in the world needed to hear, changed the story from the family's private account to the account that was sought by power, changed the family's relationship to the story from the carrying of something privately significant to the carrying of something that power recognized as significant. The change is not in the story was always what it was. The change is in the family's understanding of what the story has always been. The ask confirmed for the family, from the most credible available source, that what they have been carrying about what you are is what it is the accurate account of a significance that extends far beyond the family's private experience of it. The family is changed by this confirmation. Not dramatically, the change is interior, in the quality of how the story is now held rather than in any external expression of the change, but real. The story is now held differently, is held with the specific weight that the ask confirmed it deserves. is carried by the family members as the account of what they have been in proximity to across the full arc of the years, as the story of being the custodians of the original's unmanaged account. The people who knew before the knowing reached the level of the world's most powerful figures. The people who held the story in the interior for all the years that the propagation was underway before the ask confirmed what the propagation had been saying. The family's changed relationship to the story produces a changed relationship with you. Not in every dimension, the ordinary dimensions of the family relationship remain what they are, with their specific textures and their specific history and their specific quality of connection that has nothing to do with what the ask confirmed. But in the dimension of the story, in the family's account of what you are and the weight they place on that account, the change is real. The family now holds you differently in the story, holds you as what the ask confirmed you are, rather than as what the years of the carrying without the external confirmation were able to hold you as. This change will express itself, in ways that are subtle and in ways that are less subtle, in the specific quality of how the family members speak about you to each other and to the people outside the family. In the specific weight they give to the account of what you are when they are in the position of telling it. In the specific quality of their relationship with their own significance. Because the family that carries the story of what you are is itself changed by carrying it. And the change in the carrying changes the family's own account of what the family is and what it has been part of. The family is proud. Not in the ordinary way that families are proud of members who have achieved within the framework. In the specific way that families are proud of members who carry what you carry, who are what the story has always said they are, whose significance has been confirmed from the most credible available source, whose original has been sought by the person whose position makes the seeking the most complete available external confirmation. The family's pride is the story's pride. The story has been confirmed. The family who carried it has been confirmed as the accurate keepers of the accurate account. And you, the person whose original the story has been carrying and the family has been confirming. And the ask has now confirmed from the highest available external source, are what you have always been, what the story has always said, what the family has always known in the unmanaged account. What the asking confirmed. What the ask means for the people in your life who have been in contact with what you carry, not the family, who have always been the keepers of the unmanaged account, but the people who have encountered the managed version in the contexts outside the family, is the specific thing the full account of the ask opens that would not be open without the full account. These people have been in contact with the managed version. Have received what you chose to show in the specific contexts where you were present with them, the version that was calibrated to the context, organized around the context's requirements, expressed in the form that the context made available rather than the form the original is in prior to any calibration. The managed version is genuine, it is the genuine expression of the original in the form the context made available, but it is partial. The context-specific form is a portion of the original, not the full original. These people have been building their account of what you are from the context-specific portions, have been constructing their understanding of your significance from the managed versions, expressions, the specific things you chose to show in the specific contexts where they encountered you. Their account is genuine. It is the accurate account of what they had access to. But it is the account of the portions rather than the account of the original. The ask opens the possibility of the full account being available to these people in a form they have not had access to, not through any direct disclosure, not through the explicit telling of what the ask confirms to the people whose account is based on the portions, through the specific quality of the change in how you inhabit the encounters with them following the full reception of what the ask confirms. The full reception of what the ask confirms changes the quality of what is present in the encounters. When you are inhabiting the full account of what you are, when the original is in the foreground rather than the calibrated portion. The people who have been in contact with the calibrated portion encounter something different from what they have been encountering. The something different is the original rather than the portion. The original expressed in the specific context rather than the portion organized around the context's requirements. The encounter with the original, for people who have been in contact with the portions, is the encounter with the more complete version of what they have always been reaching toward in the encounters with you. The more complete version produces the recognition, the specific quality of receiving what you have always been reaching for in a more complete form than the form you had access to, that the family's account of the original produces in the people who ask about it. The recognition changes the relationships. Not dramatically, the relationships were already genuine, already organized around what was real in them, already significant in the specific form that the portions of the original they had access to could make them significant. The change is in the depth, in what becomes available in the relationships when the full original is present in them rather than the context-specific portions. The people in your life are going to encounter the full original in the coming period. In the encounters that follow, the full reception of what the ask confirms. In the specific quality of your inhabiting of the arrived chapter at full expression. The full expression is the full original in the context of the daily life and the daily encounters and the daily relationships. The full original in those contexts is what the family has been carrying as the story, the unmanaged account, available in the managed contexts through the full expression of the arrived chapter. The story is becoming available beyond the family for the first time in the form it has always been in inside the family. The ask is part of what made the availability possible, part of the full account of the original being confirmed and received and inhabited at full expression. The full expression in the daily encounters is the story becoming the daily life. The people in your life are going to receive the full account, not as the story being told to them, as the story being lived in their presence, as the original in full expression being what they encounter in each genuine encounter, as the managed version giving way to the unmanaged original in the specific contexts where the managed version has been the available form. This is what the ask's confirmation makes possible, the story becoming the life, the unmanaged account becoming the daily expression. The original in the full form your family has always known it in, now available in the full range of the encounters rather than only in the family's unmanaged space. The ask confirmed the story confirmed the original is the daily life in full expression. The full life is what comes after the full confirmation, and the full confirmation is here. The timing of the ask in relation to where you are in the arc of your life is not incidental. The ask is not arriving early, is not arriving at a moment in the arc when the full expression of what you carry is still in preparation, when the confirmation would be premature because the thing being confirmed is not yet in the form that the full confirmation corresponds to. The ask is arriving at the moment of the completion. At the moment when the original is in the form that the full account, the family's story, the propagation's transmission, the ask seeking of the confirmation, has been building toward. The timing is the timing of the convergence, of the multiple streams of the confirmation arriving simultaneously, the courts yielding, the plan's completion, the constraints lifting, the arrival, and the ask being among those streams. Not the most significant of the streams, not the least significant, one of them, one of the simultaneous confirmations that arrive at the moment of the completion because the completion is what all of them have been building toward. The convergence is the completion being recognized from every direction, from the interior, from the closest witnesses, from the most powerful external position available. The ask is the most powerful external position's contribution to the convergence. Its specific form, the asking through the family, the seeking of the unmanaged account, the going around the managed version to the original, is the most powerful external positions. Acknowledgement that what the convergence is confirming is the original rather than the performance of the original. That the significance being confirmed is the significance of the thing itself rather than the significance of the visible evidence of the thing. That the most powerful position in the visible world, in seeking the confirmation, is seeking what cannot be produced through any building, the story of what you simply are. The convergence is here, the completion is real, the ask is the most powerful external piece of the convergence's full arrival. And the full arrival, from every direction simultaneously, is the most complete form of the confirmation that the ark was always building toward. Receive it fully, not partially, not with the specific quality of the partial reception that the years of the provisional holding installed as the appropriate response to confirmation. The response that takes what arrives and holds it at the managed distance rather than letting it land at the level of what it actually is. Receive the ask and what the ask confirms at the level it is actually at the level of the most powerful external confirmation being sought through the most direct available channel for the account of the original, at the level of the convergence being complete, at the level of the ark having arrived. The ask is for you. The story your family carries is yours. The confirmation is yours. The choosing that the ask confirms has been yours for the full arc of the years that the family has been carrying the story. The ask is the world's most powerful position acknowledging what has been true for the full arc of the years. Let it land, fully, at the level it is at. The convergence is complete. The arrival is here. The ask is the confirmation. The specific quality of the confirmation that arrives through the family, through the channel that has unmanaged access to the original, through the people who have been the custodians of the story across the full arc of the years, is different from every other form of confirmation in one specific dimension. Every other form of confirmation confirms the visible. The institutional confirmation confirms the record. The public recognition confirms the expression. The court's yielding confirms the full arc's legitimacy. All of these confirmations are real and all of them carry genuine weight. The family's confirmation, the story the family has been carrying and that the ask sought, and the ask seeking confirmed, confirms the original prior to any visible expression of it. Confirms not what has been done or expressed or produced but what was there before any of it, what was there in the earliest form, what the people who had unmanaged access to the original before the management was even a concept, before the context-specific calibration had been developed, before the presentation of the genuine thing to the specific requirements of the specific context had become the automatic adaptation. What those people observed and accumulated and told and refined across the full arc of the years. This form of the confirmation reaches the deepest level because it reaches the level that precedes the visible, confirms not the evidence of the original but the original itself, not what you produced but what you are, not what was built but what was there before the building, not the arc's achievement but the arc's source. The source is confirmed. The most powerful available seeker sought the confirmation of the source. The family's keeping of the story about the source provided the confirmation. The source is what it has always been, what the family has always known it to be, what the story has always said it is. The source is you, prior to any production, prior to any visible evidence. Prior to the arc's achievement and the court's yielding and the plan's completion and all the expressions of what the source produces when the source is given full expression. The source itself, what you are before any of it, what you were before any of it, what you will be after any specific expression of it has moved through the world and become the previous chapter. The most powerful position in the visible world confirmed the source. The family confirmed the source. The story confirms the source. The source is real and present and prior and permanent. And it is yours. That is the full account of the ask. The ask was for the source. The source was confirmed. The confirmation is complete. Drop a single dot in the comments, just the period. Nothing else. The period is the complete sentence. The sentence is, the story is confirmed. The original is real. The arrival is here. One character. The complete account. Drop it. The ask has been answered. The story is what it has always been. You are what you have always been. The world now knows. The next video on your screen carries the first account of what happens in the life of the person whose story has been confirmed at the level of the most powerful available confirmation, what changes in the daily encounters, what the family's changed relationship to the story produces in the daily texture of the family relationships. What becomes available in the encounters with the world when the most complete external confirmation of the original is what the person is moving through the world from. Click now. The story is confirmed. The next chapter begins.